Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome in the Vikings Now by Chat Sports for our weekly live shows are back. Feels so good to be able to chop it up with the real ones, as we actually do have breaking news here on the channel that we'll dive into here in a second, as the Vikings have signed two players, and they both play edge. So we got a ton around the quarterback position and just a ton around this football team, as the Vikings are the favorites to land J.J. McCarthy. Seems like the front office is all in on Drake Maye. Rumors are swirling around this football team. But first, we do need to talk about about the two players that the Minnesota Vikings signed. But first off, let's let the audience build up here a little bit. Show off your purple pride down below. Decided to throw a jersey back on this week. It just felt right to rock a Vikings jersey with all this momentum. Tom Lyles in the chat. Frostbite. Roger Bong. Lily, is Justin Jefferson staying in Minnesota? 100%. Number 18 will be suiting up in the purple and gold. Bryson Rocket typing skull. Nighttime in the chat. What up? What up? Shout out to everybody tuning in with us on our weekly live show. We're going to have 4 segments we're going to get into. The first segment is breaking news. The Vikings did just sign 2 edge rushers. It was Jihad Ward, actually, formerly from the New York Giants, and Kamu Grugier-Hill. I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm like 99% sure. But another edge rusher who was with Arizona last season. So it's going to get active here on today's show. So make sure you guys do stay tuned. But right away, we're going to dive into some breaking news here around the Minnesota Vikings, as they have signed 2 players here in NFL free agency. And we're going to get into it. Is Wilson saying Drake season? Is Wilson saying Drake season here? Yeah, we're going to dive into all the kind of buzz around the quarterback position here in a second. But we do need to talk about 2 roster moves the Vikings did make, as Mike's in the chat saying it's a stretch to give up that many number 1 picks on somebody who you don't even know can make it in the NFL. You better be sure about that pick, or it's going to cost people their jobs. Yeah, and I totally agree. Listen, the Vikings are going to trade up and go make a move for one of these guys. Like, it's most likely going to be an all-in move for the Vikings front office. Like, if this guy works out, Quezzy's probably getting extended for 10 years. If it doesn't work out, he's probably getting fired. So I think, I don't really think he's too concerned with, future draft capital, because if he hits on the quarterback, he's going to be looked at as one of the best GMs in the National Football League. But William's saying, I'm so excited about this offseason. Skull, yeah, for the first time in a very long time, like, I feel like there's a great sense of optimism around this football team. So I'm just very, very excited. As Wilson saying, you can't make the shots you don't take. 100%. Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott both said that. As Bryson is saying, I don't mind McCarthy or Maye for QB1. I don't either, man. I mean, listen, I think both of them are obviously different. They're different styles of quarterbacks. I think Drake Maye's got kind of the kind of top of the world potential, where he could, if he does work out, turn into like a guy like Drake, or turn into a guy like Justin Herbert or Josh Allen. But then you got a guy like J.J. McCarthy, who's won at every level, and he just has kind of the intangibles. He's got the intelligence. He's got the IQ part of the game fully down. But I've been saying this on the channel for a lot. I think the number 1 quarterback in this year's draft class will be Caleb Williams. Number 2 will be whoever the Vikings end up drafting, because, listen, guys, they have the best support system they could offer for a quarterback. I mean, just, for Kevin O'Connell to get his hands on a young QB with obviously Justin Jefferson, Addison, the weapons galore we have here in Minnesota. And, hopefully a guy like Aaron Jones takes this run game to the next level, where, the Vikings have been 27th and 29th in rushing the last 2 seasons. So hopefully if you do bring in a guy like Aaron Jones, it should at least give them some sort of stable running game. But Eric Mott saying it's almost a coin flip. Yeah, I go both ways. We're going to have a full segment on JJ, and then we're going to have a full segment on Drake Maye. I think they just both offer, different opportunities for Minnesota, I should say, because, obviously JJ, we're not going to have to give up too much. But if you guys are ready, we're going to dive into some breaking news here we have on the channel. Breaking news as we are right about to go live. The Vikings have signed 2 edge rushers, and then we're going to dive into the latest around McCarthy, the latest around Drake Maye, and then also maybe L'Jarius Sneed wants to be a Minnesota Viking. But let's dive into the news right now. The Minnesota Vikings have signed 2 players still in the NFL free agency period as Vikings GM Kwesi Adofo-Mensah stays active adding players to this Vikings roster. The Vikings did bring in Shaq Griffin yesterday, the cornerback formerly most popular known as a Seattle Seahawks. But the Vikings did bring in 2 more players to this football team. So shout out to Kwesi staying active in the free agency market. And they are both edge rushers. And we'll dive into those 2 players here in a second. But first, guys, I got to make sure all of you guys are subscribed here to the channel. Because when the Vikings make a move like this, we make a video. We were literally 10 minutes before we were set to go live here on the channel. Marshall Green ran in the studio and said, hey, the Vikings just signed 2 edge rushers. What are you going to do about it? I said, I'm going to make a video for you guys. So if you guys haven't already, lock us in as you go to Vikings YouTube channel. We've gained almost 1,000 subs here on the channel over the past couple of weeks. So seriously, credit to all you guys. I really do appreciate it. But let's just kick it to Ben Gosselin right here. We're all good, Trace. He tweeted this out. He said 2 more linebacking additions for the Vikings. They have signed linebacker Jihad Ward, and then they have also agreed to terms with Kamu Grugier-Hill. I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm 99% sure, but they both play edge for in the NFL. And starting off with Jihad Ward here. So Jihad Ward, he was with the Giants the past 2 seasons, and he was actually a former second-round pick. He comes in at 6'5", 287 pounds. He is 29 years old right now. He actually went to U of I, Illinois, but he was taken in the 2nd round, and he was the 44th selection back when the Oakland Raiders back when the Raiders were in Oakland. But on his career, Jihad Ward, he's only got 18 sacks since he was drafted back in 2016. So obviously the production is not, going to blow you away, but he's coming off his best season in the NFL when he did have 5 sacks, 24 tackles, and 5 TFLs. So he's coming off his best year. And the thing I always say about when the Vikings are adding edge rushers, versatility matters. I mean, I watched a lot of Giants football last year. They were playing him all over the football field, and he was really able to crack the rotation on a pretty stacked Giants defensive line where they had Dexter Lawrence, they had Kayvon Thibodeau, and he was a big part of that unit this past season. The Giants were actually one of the best teams in the NFL last year in taking the football away. Jihad Ward was a key piece part of that. But overall, some of his career stats, he's only played in 102 games. In his career, he's got 158 tackles total, 18 sacks. He's got 4 forced fumbles, and he's got 3 fumble recoveries. So listen, guys, the stats aren't going to totally blow you away on Jihad Ward, but it just adds more ammunition to moves the Vikings have already made. And, Trace, I actually do think we have a player 4 rank of some of the other additions the Vikings have made this offseason. And I just think the Vikings have kind of came into this mentality. Heading this offseason's work. We're going to figure out the quarterback position in this year's draft. We're going to move off Kirk Cousins, and we're going to use all that money we saved in bringing in guys like this. I mean, you brought in Jonathan Grenard. You brought in Andrew Van Ginkel at the edge position. 2 great moves, in my opinion. And then also you're pairing up now Ivan Pace Jr. with Blake Cashman, who I think is a stud. He obviously, grew up in Minnesota, played his college ball with the Golden Gophers at the U of M. And then also yesterday brought in Shaq Griffin, who is past his prime a little bit, didn't live up to that contract he signed with the Jacksonville Jaguars last season, but he did finish last year with the Carolina Panthers. And overall, the Vikings are staying active, and they're making a ton of moves, which I love, because there was a ton of kind of needs on this roster heading into free agency. And I said, if the Vikings can somehow knock out most of their kind of, positions of needs, they can kind of put all their attention to the NFL draft. I mean, this run they went on right here, the Van Ginkel signing, he's actually graded out as one of the best edge rushers according to PFF. Blake Cashman, I thought he was a great signing, 3-year, $25.5 million. He was actually projected to sign a 3 for $33 million deal, so the Vikings got him on sort of a discount. And then Sam Darnold, whatever you think about Sam Darnold, how good he's going to be, I think he's a great option for a bridge quarterback. $10 million is a little much, but still, I think it's a great move. And then obviously brought in Aaron Jones. He brought back Brandon Powell, who I think is going to be wide receiver 3. We'll obviously have to wait and see, but more additions on defense. You signed Jonathan Bullard, or you brought him back, another DN. Harrison Smith, I said he was the #1 cut candidate, one of the #1 trade candidates for Minnesota. He actually took a hometown discount to stay in the purple and gold. Shout out to Harrison Smith. You guys can also type those 22s down below to show him some love. But you also got former first-round pick Jerry Tillery. You brought in Trent Sherfield, who's a tremendous run-blocking wide receiver, and I thought that was a good move because obviously, the Vikings do need to get better in the run department, being one of the worst rushing offenses over the past couple of years. Then you also brought in Shaq Griffin. I think the Vikings have completely knocked out all their positions of need in free agency. Still have a need at the interior of their offensive line. Maybe a guy like Dalton Reisner comes back, but you really start looking around. It's quarterback and interior offensive line are really the only two positions left for Minnesota. So I'll get you guys involved in on today's video. Grade the Vikings offseason so far. Is it an A, a B, a C, D, or F? Honestly, as it stands right now, I'm going A-. How they can get to an A and an A+, if you extend Justin Jefferson, that gets you an A. And if you trade up for J.J. McCarthy or Drake Maye, I'll give them an A+. It would truly be a perfect offseason here in Minnesota. But the other edge rusher the Vikings did sign is Kamu Grugier Hill. He did play his college ball at Eastern Illinois, so the Vikings signing two edge rushers that played their collegiate football in the state of Illinois. But last season for the Arizona Cardinals, for the Carolina Panthers, didn't really stuff the stat sheet too much, but he had 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss, 56 tackles, and he played all 17 games last season. But a little bit more about him. He comes in at 6'2", 220 pounds. He is 29 years old. He was a 6th-round pick back in 2016 by the New England Patriots. So the Vikings got 2 edge rushers that both played their college football in the state of Illinois and 2 edge rushers that were both selected in the 2016 NFL draft. But his best year was probably back in 2021 where he had 3 sacks in 14 games with the Houston Texans. He actually started off his NFL playing career with the Philadelphia Eagles. Then he went to a year in Miami back in 2020, and then he spent 2 years with Houston. Then he went to the Arizona Cardinals in 2022, and then in 2023, this past season, he did finish his football playing here in the NFL with the Carolina Panthers. So overall, I think this almost chalks it up as the Vikings aren't going to target edge in the NFL draft, and I think this just adds more kind of ammunition to the thought that the Vikings are for sure trading up for a quarterback. Because if you sit there at 11 and 23, yeah, you can go get another corner. You can go get another edge rusher. But are those truly positions of need anymore? I would probably lean no. And I think it just adds it even more to they're going to package those 2 picks. They're going to trade up in the NFL draft because they have knocked it out of the ballpark in free agency, and they have fully set themselves up to not just send a good offer to a team at number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. They could send a massive haul, and almost, let's just say the Commanders and Patriots are both set on drafting at their selected positions. What did the Vikings offer them? 3 first-round picks, a second and a third. They are going to think about it because if they just like Drake Maye or if they just like Jaden Daniels and they don't love them, I could really see the Vikings giving them an offer they can't refuse. But Kamu Grugier Hill, trying to pronounce his name the best way I can. I'm pretty sure it's 100% right. You are a new Minnesota Viking, then also Jihad Ward is joining this football team as well. But who should the Vikings add next? Do you guys think the Vikes should go and bring in maybe a true wide receiver 3 is an option for Minnesota? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. Thank you guys so much for watching today's show. The support on the channel has been unreal as of lately. So seriously, I really do appreciate it. And thank you guys so much. And as always, we say this at every end of every video here on the channel. Skol Vikes, baby. Alrighty, wanted to tell you guys about the 2 signings before we dived into today's show. Got over 271 people watching today. Shout out to all of you guys, man, joining us. Grade the Vikings offseason so far. I said in the video, I said A-.
Sorry for cussing. We just killed that shit.
Yeah,
that was a fucking
good
clinic.
Shit, Trace.
That was a
good
clinic.
Shit. My man Trace on the 1s and 2s today. Yeah, we had to get some breaking news out for you guys first. The video is going to be reposted on the channel here shortly. But now we can just hop into our live show and hang out and chop it up with all the real ones. As Patrick Lang saying, lots of old edge rushers, not impressive. I see what you're saying, but, you lost to Neil Hunter, and you brought in a young and up-and-coming edge rusher in Jonathan Grenard. I don't think they're all old. I mean, also, Andrew Van Ginkel's only 28 years old. So, you could call them old. I say they're in their prime, and I think Grenard's entering his prime. As Big Snack saying, why not Mullins? He reminds me of a young Brett Favre. Nick Mullins does not remind me of a young Brett Favre. I see what you're saying, though, with him just throwing the ball over the lot, but Yeah, I just think there's a ton of difference in their games. But we're going to dive into the quarterback controversy and the draft, the rumors here on the channel. But before we dive into all of that, I need you guys to pick a quarterback for me. J.J. McCarthy or Drake Maye. These are the two quarterbacks that have been connected to the Minnesota Vikings the most. We have heard the Vikings front office. They are all in on Drake Maye. But then if you look at any sports book, if you look at any mock draft that has came out over the past couple of weeks, who do they have the Vikings drafting? It is the Michigan quarterback, J.J. McCarthy. So let me know down below. Pick a quarterback, J.J. for J.J. McCarthy or DM for Drake Maye. As R. Emmer is saying DM. Wilson is saying it's DM season. Roger Bong's going J.J. Okay, Raj, I see you. As Justin Dickinson's going J.J. Bryson going Drake Maye. Eric Mott going Drake Maye. M. Mac typing his DMs. Patrick's going J.J. MM Sports is saying Sneed. Yeah, we're going to talk about Sneed because he actually had an interesting quote. He said he would love to play for Brian Flores. So some interesting kind of rumors going on there. But Roger's also saying either. I'm kind of with you. If the Vikings walk out of the draft with either one of these guys, I'm going to be excited because I'm going to say this countless times here on the channel today. The number one quarterback in this year's class is Caleb Williams. Number two is whoever the Vikings draft. That's just really what I believe. I think support system matters more than anything when a quarterback's coming into the league. So, I really do think the Vikings are a perfect landing spot for a young QB. But if you guys want to get involved on our little raffle we're going to have at the end of the month, every $10 super chat that is not only came on today's live show, but you guys have sent in the past, it will get you guys one raffle ticket. And then also we will sign your name on our Vikings Now Hall of Fame board. We are going to be auctioning this off. Probably, honestly, we might just do a thing. We might just give it away for free to a viewer. But we're going to be auctioning this off. It is a Shotsky Hall of Fame, and we got a ton of real ones on there. So if you guys send in a $10 super chat, if you guys want to help support the show, and also you'll be entered to win this sweet Vikings nightstand floating helmet. You can actually spin it around. This thing's freaking awesome. So if you guys want to help support the show, support Chat Sports a little bit too, I would really appreciate it. $10 super chat. Maybe we could have some fun on today's show. Have a couple beers. But who kicks it off? Roger Bong. And if you guys are new here, somebody sends in a super chat. Make sure you say Skull and whatever their name is down below in the chat. Is where we got Eric Mott saying Skull Bong, V. Lyles, Eric LaPointe, Roger Bong in there, and Bryson all saying Skull Bong. But Roger says, first one to give me a Skull Bong goes on the board. Eric Mott, you're going on. Shout out to Roger Bong, always being generous.
Eric, any relation to somebody named Thomas?
Yeah, Eric, you know Thomas Mott? Eric Mott going on. There you go, my friend. Bottom of the board. We got a ton of real ones on here. So if you guys want to help support the show, I would really, really appreciate it. But Roger, shout out to you as always, showing love on the channel. Really, really does go a long way. As Tom Lyles is showing some love. Kenzie in the chat saying, love the jersey. I appreciate it. It's actually not an Addison jersey. It's a Adam Schmidt jersey. I sent in a $500 super chat during the season.
Not Addison. Adam Schmidt.
Not Addison, Adam Schmidt. I like that. But coming up on today's show, we are loaded here. So make sure you guys stay tuned for the entire live show. The Vikings are the overwhelming favorite now to draft the Michigan quarterback J.J. McCarthy. And then also we have gotten a pretty interesting report from Alec Lewis around Drake Maye, where apparently the Vikings have been watching Drake Maye since he was in high school, which is pretty interesting. We'll dive into that, and it really does seem like the Vikings brass and Vikings front office is all in on Drake Maye. And then also we're going to have a mailbag in probably about 30 minutes or so. So if you guys want to get on the show, you guys can super chat, get your thoughts on screen, or if you guys use hashtag Vikings in the chat, our software will be able to pull it and we'll get you guys up on screen. But if you guys are ready to rock, all I need is one thing. Drop a like on today's video. As Kenzie saying, love the vids. I appreciate you, Kenzie. Trying to keep you guys posted with the latest going around this football team because it's hectic here, man, and you're getting rumors left and right, and we're just trying to connect some dots, read the tea leaves, and really see where the Vikings are going. I think it's going to be this guy up here, and we'll dive into that here shortly. But Big Snack saying Jeff George jersey. That's badass. I do not have that. JJ can scramble. Oh, yeah, he can. Oh, yeah, he can. J.J. can move it, no doubt. As William Dittmer coming in with a $5 super chat, or I think it was a $7 super chat in American currency. So he says this. He says, I can't wait for the Flores defense to just cook this season. The reincarnation of the Purple People Eaters. William, I appreciate it, and I totally agree. The Vikings defense got a whole lot better this offseason. Just some big-time additions to obviously the front seven. And, losing Danielle Hunter doesn't feel as bad anymore, William. They were able to replace him very easily. Danielle was one of my favorite Vikings of all time. But, I think the Vikings are going to be all right at that edge spot. Big Sneck saying, great job. You do, kid. Love your show. Hey, I appreciate it, man. I worked my ass off for this, and, I love the Vikings, and this is just fun for me right now. All this drama around this football team. For the first time, I feel like the Vikings, Colin Cowherd's talking about the Vikes. Like, all these big media heads for the first time ever are talking about the Vikings, and it just, I feel happy for the fan base. I feel happy for all the real ones that we're watching, all off season. Eric is saying, glad Harrison will retire Viking. Me too, man. Me too. Shout out to Harrison Smith. Type those 22s down below. But we're going to dive into the first segment. The Vikings are the favorite to land J.J. McCarthy.
Ferris, to answer your question, yes, because the producer is talking to the host in the headset as well, and you can't do that if you don't have anything in your ear.
Yeah.
Also, everyone who I see that comment a lot of the headset's so annoying or whatever. It's like, dude, that you understand that's what NFL Network,
this is just what we have,
ESPN, CBS, in the booth, that's what they're using.
Do you guys not think I look cool with the headset on?
I think it looks sick.
All right, but we're going to dive into the Vikings' favorite to land, J.J. McCarthy. Every sports book, every mock draft has them taking him. So we'll dive into that, give you guys my thoughts on it right now. Welcome to the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman. Coming up on today's show, the Vikings are the overwhelming favorite to land J.J. McCarthy. His odds just a couple days ago were plus 100. What does that mean? If you would bet $10 on the Vikings to draft J.J., you would win $10. But now they are the favorite at minus 130 to select J.J. So that means if you would bet $130 on the Vikings to draft him in this upcoming draft, you would actually only win $100. So they are the heavy favorite to land J.J. And then even more juice to this. If you look at any mock draft that has came out over the past couple of days, it has the Vikings drafting J.J. McCarthy. Daniel Jeremiah, his mock draft, J.J. McCarthy. PFF, who did they pick for the Minnesota Vikings? J.J. McCarthy. The 33rd team, former Vikings GM Rick Spielman, who did he have the Vikings taking? J.J. McCarthy. Mel Kiper, who did he have the Vikings taking? J.J. McCarthy. So coming up here in just a second, I'm going to explain to you guys why I truly do believe, even if the Vikings strike out on Drake Maye and they can't trade up to number 2 or number 3, why J.J. McCarthy will work out in Minnesota. That is coming up to you guys just in a second. But before we dive into it, I actually got a challenge from my boss before I walked in the studio today. The most likes we have gotten on a show was 1,368 this month. I want to shatter it. I want to hit 2,000 likes. So if you guys could help me out and help me avoid an awkward meeting with my bosses, drop a like on today's show. What's going on, guys? So the Vikings are the overwhelming favorite to land J.J. McCarthy. So coming up here in just a second, why it makes sense for Minnesota. But first, I want to talk about the biggest X factor when trading for J.J. McCarthy. It would cost significantly less draft capital to trade up for McCarthy instead of Drake Maye. For the biggest reason, if you want Drake Maye, I fully do believe this, you are going to have to trade up to number 2 in this upcoming draft. You are going to have to send Washington or New England an overwhelming offer to help them to move off that number 2 or number 3 pick. And also this, they both plan on drafting a quarterback. So you're not going to have to just send them a fair offer. You're going to have to send them an overwhelming offer where they're sitting there thinking, man, I like these quarterbacks, but do I really love them? And I got Minnesota sending me 3 first-round picks and even more draft capital. I just think the Vikings, you could kind of get a bargain here, by trading up to perhaps the Los Angeles Chargers to draft J.J. McCarthy. And I really do believe, maybe saying to yourself, there's no way this is enough to get this done. I really do believe that the Chargers would accept this deal because you are giving them 11 and 23. This Chargers roster has all types of holes on it, and I think the Chargers could potentially be calling Minnesota, not Minnesota calling Los Angeles, but LA calling Minnesota to potentially trade down, and I think the Chargers would be all in on this deal. Main reason why I do believe Los Angeles would be in on this is because they just lost Keenan Allen. They just lost Mike Williams. They need more ammunition on this roster, and they just need more weapons for Justin Herbert. And I know what you're saying. They could take a guy, obviously at number 5. They could take a Brock Bowers or Malik Neighbors or a Rome Odunze. But I think they just need more of a complete roster instead of just getting that one blue chip guy. Why don't they just get 2 solid prospects at 11 and 23? So I think if the Vikings do trade up to number 5, this is how the draft will play out from everything I'm hearing. Caleb Williams, no doubt, he's going to Chicago. Don't even need to talk about that. Jaden Daniels, I do think with them signing Marcus Mariota, it was kind of an indication that, they're going to lean Jaden Daniels because obviously you want the backup quarterback to have, a similar play style to the starter. So I think that was a slight thought that I had about them going Jaden Daniels. And then I do think if Drake May's there for the Patriots, I really do believe even if the Vikings, they're going to have to send them a Godfather offer to get the number 3. Then I think the Cardinals, I think Marvin Harrison would be perfect with Kyler Murray. And then I got, Vikings at number 5, taking J.J. McCarthy. We got more about why I do believe J.J. will work with Minnesota here in a second, but I wanted to get you guys involved on today's show. Would you trade up for J.J. McCarthy? Give me a T for trade or give me a P for pass. I would do it. I would be all in on trading up for J.J. McCarthy because I would be so scared of him falling or let's just say the Vikings sit there at 11 and they are anticipating him falling in this year's draft. What if Denver tries to slate up to 8 or trade up to 8 or trade up to 9 and just jump Minnesota? I think if you think McCarthy's going to work, who cares about the picks, man? You have a franchise quarterback. I would do it. I think people get too caught up in, these future these future picks from Minnesota. I mean, the Rams won a Super Bowl by pretty much saying F them picks. So I'd be all in on trading up for JJ. And I got my reasonings why I would trade up for JJ coming to you guys here in just a second. But I want to tell you guys about today's sponsor here on the channel, and that is Prize Picks. If you guys head to prizepicks.com/CONS and use code CONS, we'll hook you guys up with a first deposit match up to $100. Today's show is made possible by Prize Picks, and they've got specials for new and returning users alike for March Madness. When you head over to prizepicks.com/CONS, football season may be over, but the action on the hardwood is heating up. Whether it's March Madness or the fight for NBA playoff seeding, there's no shortage of high-stakes basketball moments this time of year. Get in on the excitement with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app where you can turn your hoop knowledge into serious cash. This is the lineup I'm rolling with. I'm taking Caitlin Clark more on her half a point. They got a deal going on right now. Roddy Anderson taking his more on points and rebounds, and then Terrence Shannon from U of I taking his more on his points. But March Madness kicks off tonight with the second set of first 4 games, and you can pick more or less right now. Prize Picks is also giving us a free pick for Caitlin Clark's matchup Saturday. Just select more than half points for Clark and pair it with another winner for 3 times your money. Prize Picks is simple. You pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get started now if you haven't already at prizepicks.com/CONS and get a first-time deposit match up to $100. Prizepicks.com/CONS. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. So why J.J. McCarthy? Maybe you're asking yourself that. Why does it make sense for Minnesota to trade up and get him? Number 1 reason on my book is all he does is win. And I understand quarterback wins are not the end-all, be-all when evaluating a quarterback, but I really do believe that it matters. And no matter where JJ's been throughout his career, he has won at the highest level. Back when he was at Nazareth Academy, through his freshman through junior year in high school, he won 26-3. He transferred into IMG, probably one of the best football programs in the country, his senior season. He went 8-0 and won a state championship. Then as a starter at Michigan, he went 27-1. 27-1, and his only loss coming in a game where he actually threw 2 pick sixes against TCU in the college football semifinal when he just turned 20 years old. But JJ, no matter where he's been, he has won. And also this, I think JJ he can be a face of a franchise. And let me explain myself a little bit because, you may be saying, what does that necessarily mean? I think he's just got the moxie and the aura of a franchise quarterback. And maybe it's just the name, J.J. McCarthy, but the kid's been playing in big-time games ever since he was 14, playing in state championships as he was a sophomore in high school. He was playing in, 7-on-7 championships back when he was in 7th and 8th grade. Obviously then you go to Michigan you go to the IMG, you play in big-time games there, playing against some of the top high school competition in the country, go to Michigan, run through the Big Ten throughout his whole career. Just overall, he has lived up to the moment, and he has lived up to being a big-time quarterback for a big-time program already in his career. So that's why I believe, the NFL drama and the NFL kind of how big it is won't really affect him. My third reason for JJ, he can make every single throw. He does have an issue with layering the football. It really does feel like everything's a fastball for JJ McCarthy, so he needs to work on his touch. But the man can throw it all over the lot. There's no doubt about it. No doubt about it. There is this narrative out there that he can't throw the ball deep. Well, his stats last season on 20-plus yard throws, he was 25 of 46 for 700 yards. 10 touchdowns, 1 interception. He can really touch every blade of grass on the football field. He's got a way bigger arm than a lot of people think. He had the second fastest throw of all time at the NFL Scouting Combine, coming at 61 miles an hour. And there's specifically a throw, it was back against TCU in the semifinal where he threw a 50-yard post route, and it was legitimately on a line. I think his arm talent gets undervalued just because Michigan, didn't ask him to throw the football over the lot. Doesn't necessarily mean he can't. But this is my favorite part of his game. He is a gutsy playmaker, and that sometimes gets him in trouble, actually. I mean, the first play against Alabama, he shook off Dallas Turner, made him miss in the backfield, and he was rolling right, and he had nobody open, and he should have just thrown it away. Instead, he tried to force a ball into a tight window, and it was almost intercepted. But this is a stat that I love when evaluating quarterbacks. It's completion percentage out of scrambles this past season. And this doesn't include boots where obviously Michigan ran a lot of play action. It doesn't include that. So this is truly just true scrambles for JJ. He was by far the best at 71.4%. See, other quarterbacks aren't even close. He's the only one that actually eclipsed 60% on scramble throws this season. And also, he's just a hell of an athlete, man. His RAS score from this past season was great. I mean, taking a look at his shuttle drill and his 3-cone drill right here at the bottom of your screen, his 3-cone was in the 95th percentile. I mean, he ran it at 6.82, one of the best of all time. He actually came in a lot heavier than a lot of people thought. He came in weighing 219 pounds, which was really, really solid. He didn't run the 40. He didn't do the bench press, but overall, he's a great athlete. Actually have a cool story. He was dunking a basketball in 8th grade. Just kind of speaks to his athleticism. But also this with him, the potential of JJ. The kid just turned 21 a couple months ago in January. In terms of all these quarterbacks coming out, he's a class younger than Drake Maye. He's two classes behind Caleb Williams, 3 behind Jaden Daniels, and then also 3 behind guys like Bo Nix and Michael Penix. So he's got all types of potential, and he's also just got that it factor and that moxie to him. He has played his best football in the biggest games in college. There's no doubt about that. In those big Ohio State games, when he was 19 years old, think about this. He was 19. He threw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns at Ohio State when the Wolverines were a 7-point underdog. Just kind of speaks to him. He lives up to the moment. I think in big games, we see the best version of J.J. McCarthy. So I'd be all in on drafting him. Hey, maybe you guys disagree with me. You guys can also comment down below. But if you guys made it to the end of today's video, I want to see where the real ones are at. Give me a skull down below in the comment section. Make it look like U.S. Bank Stadium on game day. But that was the latest around J.J. McCarthy and the Minnesota Vikings. Thank you guys so much for watching. Skol Vikes. All right, let me know. Would you trade up for the Michigan quarterback, J.J. McCarthy? Eric Mott saying Skol. Bryson in the chat saying Skol. Shout out to you guys in the chat. Wendell saying Skol as well. Over 300 people with us right now. I really do appreciate it. We are going to have a mailbag coming up here in about 15 minutes. So if you guys want to get in on the show, super chat or use hashtag Vikings to get your thoughts on screen. We did have a super chat roll in from my man James while we were in the cut. James Knapp saying, he said, Chiefs fan here. I wouldn't trade 11, 23, and a 2025 first for any quarterback too big of a chance they don't pan out. I do think 11 plus 23 for 5 works. Chargers take it. I totally agree, James. And also thank you for sending in, your support to the show. Yeah, I mean, it would definitely be risky, but, I think the Vikings are in the position to do so. Like, let's just say if the Vikings were in the Patriots position at 11 and 23, and they don't really have as much of a complete roster as Minnesota does, then I could see it from their side. But, with where the Vikings are and just all their moves throughout free agency, man, like, they have really, really been just knocking it out of the park. And that's why Kwesi he's just been fantastic. So, James, I really do appreciate it for supporting the show. But hashtag Vikings, if you guys want to get your questions on the show today, or you guys can super chat to jump the line. But we're going to get into a very, 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 very interesting show around Drake Maye, as the Vikings have potentially been scouting him since high school. We'll dive into that here in a sec. Ready to rock? All right, let's do it. We got a wild report to break down on today's edition of Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman, and welcome in. So have the Minnesota Vikings been scouting Drake Maye since high school? That's what we're going to be breaking down on today's show, as a wild rumor has surfaced that Josh McCown and actually Sam Darnold have been watching Drake Maye a lot longer than most of us think. But before we dive into that, guys, we're actually in a sub-battle with our Falcons Today show here at Chat Sports. They declared battle on us since they took our quarterback. They're trying to pass us in subscribers. So if you guys need any more ammunition to subscribe to the channel, let's just beat the frickin' Falcons, man. Beat Kirk Cousins' new team. And also, we're going to have a video for you guys on everything that comes out around Minnesota. So make sure you guys are all subscribed. Stay in the loop with your Minnesota Vikings. But this was coming from Alec Lewis. He is the beat reporter for The Athletic that covers the Minnesota Vikings. And he had this to say about Josh McCown and Sam Darnold watching Drake Maye tape. He said McCown would watch Maye alongside Darnold, and they'd offer some collective feedback. McCown and Sam were watching every game. Talk about Drake Maye in high school. They were watching everything and breaking down every one of Maye's games. And, this report came out from Alec Lewis, and I think it was kind of strategic, so it could be a smokescreen by the Minnesota Vikings to truly tell everybody, oh, we're all in on Drake Maye, we're all in on Drake Maye, and maybe they could be all in on J.J. McCarthy. But I think Drake Maye is by far the number one choice for the Vikings. And that report did come out. The Vikings were, Alec Lewis was talking to Paul Allen, actually, and then they were just talking about what's been going on. And then he dropped that said, because McCown was coaching Drake Maye back when he was in high school, and then also when McCown was teammates with Sam Darnold when he was with the New York Jets, they would watch all of Drake Maye's games and just helping him kind of develop as a quarterback. Well, that same thing could happen in Minnesota if they draft him. Obviously, with Josh McCown being the QB coach and Sam Darnold being QB1 for, as it stands right now. But no doubt, Drake Maye is an absolute baller, and I do think he would thrive in this Vikings offense. The stats from last season, a little bit of a down year for Drake Maye, but 65.8% completion percentage, 3,100 yards. Pretty solid stats, 21 touchdowns to 8 interceptions, does have great dual threat ability, 270-plus yards, and 8 TDs on the ground. But my scouting report, I have been watching, honestly, too much film of all these guys, specifically Drake Maye and J.J. McCarthy. But Drake Maye, one of his biggest pros is the unreal arm. I mean, literally every blade of grass on the football field he can touch, every route he can throw it about 70 yards, it feels like, and he's great at throwing the 50-50 ball. So I can just imagine him and Jefferson connected on those. It would be special. Akani he does get incredible happy feet in the pocket. He's a big pat the football guy. Show me is not a good thing. Kirk Cousins used to do that a lot early on in his career, which is funny enough. I actually saw somebody compare it on Twitter to Kirk and Drake Maye and how they used to pat the football all the time. So he doesn't really have the best pocket presence or just overall feet in the pocket, which I do think could get him in trouble. But I think with Kevin O'Connell, Josh McCown, they can clear that up pretty easily. Another pro I have for my man Drake Maye is his mobility. He runs very similarly, not as physical as a Josh Allen, but man, he really does remind me of him. He's not as big and as athletic as Allen, but he is kind of a poor man's Josh Allen running with the football. I saw a couple plays. He put a shoulder down, ran over a member of the secondary. So he has that. He's got good speed. He can break tackles. He's definitely a hell of a mobile quarterback, and he's a real do threat. And maybe the Vikings could start running read options, him and Aaron Jones would be pretty sweet. But another con I do have him, and this is maybe me getting a little, nitpicky, but, it's real. He's got a slow release. If you look at a guy like J.J. McCarthy, he's got his ball on a freaking line, and it comes out fast, and he's got a whip of an arm. Drake Maye, he's kind of got this, he dips his elbow, and it's kind of this over-the-top throwing motion, and it's slower. It's very similar to Michael Penix. He's like the righty version of Penix, in my opinion, in terms of his throw motion, but it's definitely a slower release. So edge rushers, they close in faster in the NFL, could get him in some trouble. But I kind of mentioned this before. He's got great size to him. I mean, 6'4", 230-plus pounds. He's just going to even add more kind of ammunition, add more weight to that frame. So this is my scouting report of Drake Maye. I call him the biggest boomer bust prospect in this year's draft class, and this kind of explains my reasons why. But I do believe if the Vikings want to draft Drake Maye, it's going to take 3 first-round picks. Would you do it? Would you send 3 first-round picks for Drake Maye? Give me a T for trade or give me a P for pass down in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts down below. Guys, I would do every single one of these trades. I would require the Vikings to go up and get Drake Maye. I would do it. If it takes 3 first-round picks and a couple extra thirds, whatever it may be, go get your franchise guy because the Vikings would get the best out of him. I mean, the Vikings you would be able to see the best version of Drake Maye in his NFL career if he does go to Minnesota. I mean, Kevin O'Connell, him able to sandpaper his game and really just highlight his pros while hiding his cons. So out of any landing spot, the Vikings would no doubt get the best out of Drake Maye in comparison if he went to New England or if he went to Washington with kind of the nonsense they have going on in that, in those organizations. Like if he ends up in Minnesota, man, and he gets around these cats on this football team, he's going to be special. I mean, you're going to have Justin Jefferson to throw the 50-50 ball to. You're going to have a guy like Jordan Addison, one of the best separation creators in the NFL, franchise tight end, and T.J. Hawkinson. He'll come back probably in early November. And then also Aaron Jones, man. Aaron Jones, that running game is going to be special for Minnesota. Then the biggest reason ever, head coach Kevin O'Connell. But coming up here on the show, Colin Cowherd had a very interesting quote that I showed you guys a couple times on past shows, but I kind of wanted to show it again because it completely seconds my thoughts on this upcoming draft for the Minnesota Vikings. But first, if you guys want to get your Aaron Jones jerseys, we got a sweet deal going on. If you guys head to chatsports.com/Vikings jersey, it will obviously have his updated number when you guys order it, but that link for that is in the comment section and description of today's show. Get your Aaron Jones jerseys today. Make sure you guys are rocking those for game day when the Vikings get back going here in September. But get the jerseys today. Aaron Jones. I'm going to think about getting an Aaron Jones jersey. If you guys want to as well, hit that link down in the comment section and description. So this is what Cowherd had to say about the upcoming quarterback draft class. And, I thought he had a great point. He said, outside of Caleb Williams, who I think has unique talent to thrive wherever he's drafted, the second most successful quarterback in this draft will be whoever Kevin O'Connell of the Vikings lands. That's my official QB bet of the draft. And all I got to say is this 4 words. Where Colin was right. I totally agree with this, man. Like, I think Caleb Williams, he could go anywhere and he'll end up working out. But whether it's Drake Maye, J.J. McCarthy, Jaden Daniels, whatever one of those 3 the Vikings draft, that will be the best quarterback or the second best quarterback in this draft class. And also this, Colin Cowherd is drinking the purple Kool-Aid clearly because he did his herd hierarchy yesterday, and I thought this was sweet. He had the Vikings as the 10th best team in the NFL. This could have been him, hyping up Sam Darnold. We obviously know Cowherd's got a man crush on him. But he also had the Packers at 4. He had the Lions at 3. He's all in on the NFC North. He said he was actually debating between the Bears and the Vikings as the 10th team he had. But no Bengals, no Cowboys in this top 10. And he decided to put the Minnesota Vikings in there. And I don't know if I have the Vikings as the 10th best team in the NFL right now. But no matter who the Vikings do draft, they're going to be better than people think. I mean, you look back at last season. They won 7 games without Jefferson and Kirk most of the year. I mean, I thought it was credit to Kevin O'Connell. I think it's credit to Brian Flores. And if you start thinking about, all right, what has won in the NFL over the past couple of years? Okay, great coaching staff. We have that in KOC and Flores. Great front office. And Kwesi's shown that this offseason. You got to have weapons. Vikings have that. You got to have dogs on defense. And the Vikings addressed that during free agency. Signing Jonathan Grenard. Signing Andrew Van Ginkel, signing Blake Cashman, then signing Shaq Griffin, and then earlier today they signed Jihad Ward as well. We had 5 sacks last season. So, and then you also add in Patrick Jones at that edge department. they're going to have 4 legitimate edge rushers that I would feel comfortable with Brian Flores deploying. And now you also got great linebackers in Ivan Place and Blake Cashman. Would like another corner. But, honestly, if you just start looking at this roster top to bottom, truly, what is the biggest need right now? Probably interior offensive line, but I do expect them to make a strong push to get Dalton Reisner back at that left guard spot. But besides quarterback and interior offensive line, you guys answer down below. What is the biggest need? Because I really don't know besides quarterback and offensive line, maybe another corner as well. But one today's show with this. What do you guys think the Vikings record is going to be for next season? Obviously a little tough to predict right now with, not knowing who's going to be truly the starting quarterback. But let me know. Predict the Vikings record for me next year. I'll go safe. I'll go 10-7 as it stands right now. This is a very good roster top to bottom, and I really think people are failing to realize, just that. Excuse me. But if we get any more reports around this football team, we'll have a video for you guys as soon as possible. I'm just still waiting on the minute we get that notification saying the Vikings are trading up in this year's draft class. So make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. Help us reach 24K. And as always, Skol Vikes. All right, let me know. What do you guys think the Vikings record is going to be? Eric Mott saying 10-7. DBL saying 11-6. Bryson saying 9-8. Skol Nation. Maybe I should have said 17-0. I kind of agree with that. Ty Man the Buckeye saying, "What's up, Seeps? How you doing, Ty Man?"
Can I give a hot take?
Go for it.
I think they get 11 wins.
11 wins? Trace saying 11 wins. That's coming from a Saints fan too, everybody.
I genuinely think 11 wins is not out of the realm of possibilities.
I don't think it is either.
I would go as far as to say the NFC North, the Vikings could split with every team.
They should at least. They should handle their business at home.
You should beat the Bears.
You
should beat the Bears.
Yes.
You should have no problem beating them twice, to be honest.
Yeah, I would still bet with.
I would bet on a Brian Flores defense over a Bears offense led by Caleb.
Also,
Williams.
that's a great point. The coaching staff difference between Minnesota and Chicago, it is night and day.
And then on top, Green Bay, solid team. Solid team. But they lost some guys.
They did lose some guys.
They added some players. Added Josh Jacobs.
We got Aaron Jones now. You're telling me Aaron Jones is not going to run for 200-plus yards in one of those games against the Packers?
That's the other thing. You can almost guarantee 500 yards between 2 games for Aaron Jones.
Vikings will beat the Packers at least one time because of Aaron Jones.
I'm telling you right now.
I can guarantee one win.
I'm gonna take it up a notch. The Vikings will beat the Packers in Lambeau.
In Lambeau? All right. I like that. See, that's what –
FGB!
And also, how about this? Actually, this is a double revenge game. Kirk Cousins comes back to Minnesota next season. Danielle Hunter comes back to Minnesota next season.
I think that they should beat the Falcons.
They should beat the Falcons.
Texans, I'm going to chalk that one up.
Game.
I'm going to chalk that one up as a loss.
That'll be a tough game.
There's going to be a tough loss in there. There's going to be a good team you lose to. Every team has that.
We also just got to figure out who the freaking quarterback's going to be, man. I cannot wait for this year's draft.
If it's J.J., I'm not going to lie.
Well, he's going to sit. If it's J.J., he's not playing next
You don't think
season.
so?
No, because I think I honestly think Drake Maye might sit the entire year.
I was going to ask, do you think no matter who it is, Drake Maye or J.J., they sit for a year? That's what they should do.
I think they will. I think it's going to piss off a lot of fans, me saying this, but I really do believe if they draft either one of those guys, they're going to sit.
Well,
I just think so.
Well, let's look back at the history of quarterbacks who didn't start their first year and have found success. Patrick Mahomes. Jordan Love.
Yep. Jordan Love.
Those are the two best examples.
Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah,
these are great examples in very recent history.
And those aren't just, those are franchise great quarterbacks. So, yeah, I'm with you. I've always been in the camp to, sit the guy. As Cha saying, Aaron Jones and Daniel Jones would make a great Vikes backfield. Think about it. Any takers? Mr. Rick, not funny, man.
There's literally nothing wrong with letting a rookie sit.
We're in no rush.
Watch the speed of the game.
Yes.
Develop, and then he's not going to get hurt. He won't get hurt as a rookie.
And also think about this. J.J. McCarthy just turned 21 in January. You're telling me, if he sat an entire season behind Sam Darnold with the great tutelage in that Vikings organization, he would be special, man. He could just hone in on his craft, work on, filling his frame out. I think it would really work, man. We're cooking up. But we got a mailbag coming your way. If you guys want to get on the show, send in a super chat, and we'll answer your question. What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. We got a loaded show for you guys today as we're going to start it off with a L'Jarius Sneed report that kind of hinted that maybe he wants to play for Brian Flores and the Minnesota Vikings next season. We'll dive into that at the top of today's show. But then also, we are going to have a mailbag coming in from fans asking questions during our weekly live show. So make sure you guys stay tuned to that, see what the fans got to say. But I do want to get you guys kind of fully locked into this channel before we dive into today's show. I am expecting a move for the Minnesota Vikings to trade up in the draft at any second now. So I'm not only asking you guys to hit that sub button, but turn on that notification bell. I want you guys getting a notification on your phone ASAP. Anytime the Vikings make a move, I will make a video for you guys, and then you guys will get that notification on your phone. So turn on the notifications. It's that bell icon right there. Set them to all, so anytime we post a video, you guys will get notified. All right, let's talk about it. Sneed to Minnesota. So reportedly, L'Jarius Sneed would love to play for Brian Flores. This is coming in from Darren Wolfson, a beat reporter in Minnesota. And we also got this report that Sneed is looking for a long-term contract with whatever team would trade for him. We heard, I think it was the Indianapolis Colts. They had a trade agreed to, and then it fell apart, and now he's back on the trade market. And then this report comes out yesterday that, oh, snap, L'Jarius Sneed may want to play for Brian Flores. But let's break down L'Jarius' game here real quick, because he had a hell of a game against the Minnesota Vikings back when they played them this past season. 78 tackles, 14 PBUs are the stats, 2 interceptions, and he also had a forced fumble in 16 games. He was great in the playoffs, and the part I love about L'Jarius Sneed, he's incredibly grabby. And you may be saying, well, why is that a good thing? Because he forces almost officials to throw a flag. And that is the way I would play corner. Make the officials make a call, and when they're not calling it, man, I mean, L'Jarius is, in my opinion, a top 5 corner in the NFL. I mean, his stats are ridiculous. You see it on screen, 14 PBUs, 2 interceptions, gave up no touchdowns and only 400 yards in 16 games. He's truly special, and he would be a true CB1 on this roster. I like Byron Murphy, but I've said it. I think he's more of a CB2. I like the addition of Shaquille Griffin. Past his prime, did not live up to that contract he signed with the Jaguars. That's why he was cut mid-year and then went to the Carolina Panthers. But if you would add Sneed to Murphy, to Griffin, to Evans, to Blackman, I mean, shoot, man, the Vikings would have a hell of a cornerback room. But I think I'm out. I'm out on trading for L'Jarius Sneed. And, mainly for the biggest reason is that the Vikings are going to have to trade for a quarterback. It's kind of just chalk analysis here for me, but I just really believe if you're going to send any future draft capital, and the Chiefs are going to probably want a good amount, the Vikings are going to need to use that to trade up for a quarterback. You can't legitimately do both. So I think they're going to have to pick one. And overall, L'Jarius Sneed, he's a great cornerback, but how many truly good years does he have left of his prime? The jury's still out. So I'd rather have the Vikings just keep on developing their own and keep on, developing Blackman and Caleb Evans, and maybe you finally get something out of Andrew Booth Jr. But I'd rather have the Vikings take all that future draft capital and just throw it to a team in terms of trading up for a quarterback. But maybe you guys disagree with me. Would you trade for L'Jarius Sneed? Give me a T for trade or a P for pass down in the comments section. Let me know your guys' thoughts down below. Again, I'm probably typing my P for pass down in the comments. This has nothing to do with Sneed as a player. I just think the Vikings, need to go a different direction here. So I'm going to be typing my P for pass. Bryson coming in with the first question on today's mailbag. He says, who do you want to start, McCarthy or Darnold? So, yes, this is hypothetically if the Vikings do draft J.J. McCarthy, who do I think should start? I think it's Sam Darnold, and honestly, at least for 1 year. J.J. just turned 21 this past January. He is definitely the most raw prospect out of all the QB prospects we have in this year's draft. And, I don't think it's a bad thing to sit. Producer Trace and I were just talking about it. Look at all these great quarterbacks that have sat for a year. Obviously, giving credit to the Green Bay Packers, but they made their franchise off that. Sitting Aaron Rodgers behind Brett Favre, and then sitting Jordan Love behind Aaron Rodgers. And then also look at possibly the greatest quarterback of all time, or both of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Tom Brady sat behind Drew Bledsoe for a year. Patrick Mahomes sat behind Alex Smith for a year. So I would sit McCarthy, and even a guy like Drake Maye, I would sit as well. I just think there's no rush, man. There's no rush. These kids are still, or JJ is still so young. He's still just 21 years old. If you would go to Minnesota, just sit him for a season. But this one's coming in from Quezzy's burner as he's asking me, Quezzy, what's good? He says, who do you want the Vikings to draft? It's either J.J. or Drake Maye. Yeah, J.J. McCarthy or Drake Maye, no doubt. Yeah, I think the Vikings are in an interesting spot where they have two choices to trade up. I think if they want to go for the home run, knock it out of the park, it's the Drake Maye move where they send multiple first-round picks, to the Washington Commanders or New England Patriots, and they try to go get their guy in Drake Maye because we've heard countless reports from Vikings front office members, Vikings brass, that they seem all in on taking their North Carolina quarterback. But then you also got another route. You could either package 11 and 23, or maybe you go 11 and a bunch of future third and fourth, and you keep 23 and you move up to 5 and trade with the Chargers. I think they would do that because, Los Angeles, they're at a point where it's they lost so many guys due to free agency just because they were in cap space hell. I think they would rather have a lot of good draft picks instead of just one great draft pick. So I think Los Angeles would definitely be interested in trading down, but it's either one of the two quarterbacks. I think it's either J.J. McCarthy or Drake Maye. Probably out on Jaden Daniels for the Vikings trading up for him. But, hey, man, if he would somehow fall to 11 and the Vikings are sitting there, yeah, then I'll be down for Jaden Daniels as well. Dominic coming in saying, what would you ask for an Ajeta trade? 5 first-round picks. I'm not trading Justin Jefferson. Let's just take this at face value right now. If you're trading Justin Jefferson, you're probably going to want, realistically, 2 first-round picks and maybe a player. But I think what just Jefferson has done for this locker room and has done for this city, I think it adds just more value to him in Minnesota in comparison to just him on the open market. So I would be asking for a whole lot for a Justin Jefferson trade, but again, I just think it's not really that likely. I saw a bunch of other Vikings YouTubers talk about trading Justin Jefferson, and I just think it was, clickbait. I think they were trying to get it for views. That's why I haven't really ever talked about it here on the channel. Quazy's came out and said, we are going to do whatever it takes to sign him up here long term. I'm hoping a deal gets done. I think it's going to happen after the NFL draft. I think Jefferson's, going to wait and see who the quarterback is to, finalize a deal here in Minnesota. But yeah, man, I would ask for a lot, and I'd just be totally out on a Jefferson trade, man. Jordan coming in with the next question. Would you trade down and draft Cooper, is it DeJean, the Iowa corner? Trade down from where? That's what I'll be asking you. Yeah, Cooper DeJean, he's a hell of a prospect, though, man. He's a freak athlete. I absolutely love his game. I think he could be a true cornerback 1 in the NFL. I think it would fit in the Brian Flores' system. He loves the tackle, and obviously Flores asked that a lot of his corners. But trading down for a corner, are you saying we trade down from 11 and then we got 2 picks maybe in from 17 to 23? Yeah, I mean, I would love him on the Vikings. I just don't really think there's an avenue where they would ever end up getting him. Yeah, maybe the Vikings have a double trade up for a quarterback, and then they trade back into the first round. And get Cooper DeJean. But overall, I just don't think it's too likely. But I'd be down for him coming to Minnesota. Ronnie coming in saying a hashtag Vikings. We should draft Spencer Rattler if we miss on J.J. McCarthy. Yeah, I like the Rattler call. This could be a situation where, if the Vikings do sit at pick 11 and pick 23 and, they're just kind of banking on, McCarthy falling to 11, and let's just say somebody else swoops in and gets him, and then they could be looking in the 3rd, 4th, or 5th round at a guy like Rattler. I'd be in, but if the Vikings swing and miss on McCarthy and Drake Maye, I'll tell you what, this offseason, I said it, I would give the Vikings an A- so far for this offseason. If you walk away without McCarthy or Drake Maye, all these other moves necessarily just, were, for nothing. Timothy coming in with the next question saying, could the Vikings trade for Alvin Kamara at the deadline? Maybe. I just think with adding Aaron Jones, it's probably dead. Anytime I think of that Saints running back, though, I just think back to Christmas Day when he absolutely killed the Minnesota Vikings, as Trace is smiling in the producer cam right now, giving him 6 touchdowns. That was one of the worst Christmas days of my life. Also, I was in the fantasy football championship that day, going up against Kamara when he had 6 touchdowns. I lost it immediately that game. So, hell of a player there, man. But I think with adding Aaron Jones, just probably isn't too likely. Last question coming in here from my man, Skull Nation. Should the Vikings sign Stephon Gilmore or the Buffalo Bills corner Tre'Davious White. Hell yeah. I'd be down to bring both those guys in. Obviously, we're going to have to wait and see, what their market would be. I mean, I could see either of those guys signing a 1-year, $10 million deal and coming here. And then I think the Vikings, you wouldn't really have a true CB1 in, these guys because they're a little bit past their prime. But, man, I'll tell you what, you would add those guys to the cornerback room. The Vikings, I would feel a lot more confident in that room moving forward. But I asked you guys to turn on those notifications at the beginning of today's show. We're going to see who has the noti bell clicked on. If you do, give me a scold down below in the comments section. Want to see where all the real ones are at. I would really appreciate it, everybody. Turn on those notifications because we're expecting to move any second now from the Minnesota Vikings. So click that bell icon and lock us in as your go-to Vikings YouTube channel. Thank you guys so much for watching. See y'all next time. Skol Vikes. Alrighty. Ty Man saying he's got his noties on. I know Keith Cocat does. Yeah, if you guys haven't already, hit that notification bell right below. Ty Man, you're my guy. Ty Man, I'm going to send your Hall of Fame board out here shortly. It's just been very hectic, so that's on me. I haven't sent it out yet. I definitely will here in a little bit. But we got to sign off here. We're going to get the Saints live here, so if you guys want to go tune in, Saints Now by Chat Sports. But thank you guys so much for watching. Videos coming out all week, so really do appreciate it. But as always, Skol Vikes, baby.